So is the interview a random experience, or is it something which is structured in a way? Is it a science or is it an art from the interviewer's perspective?
No, that's a very, very valid question, Arun. And I think that just as you mentioned that it's a very significant step in any candidate's life in terms of getting that interview call, it is a significant step for an interviewer as well, especially the ones who are mature enough, especially who understand the ethos of the institute that they are representing, or they have had a long association with the institute for which they are making this kind of a selection. There is a lot of thought that goes into it. I can give you an example of the structure that I have followed, and I have actually had interaction with few other interviewers, and they also feel that is a typical structure that they follow. We break down our time with a candidate into 4 parts. The first part relates to what would be called a icebreaker, which is you are just kind of taking that time to exchange some pleasantries, make the person comfortable, get yourself comfortable with the person, and start on a high energetic note. There are a lot of things that you can do in icebreaker. And this is like you will see that icebreaker happening in any of the things that you deal with, right? This is talking about the weather, talking about the institute, talking about any of the things. So there are lots of ways in which that icebreaker happens. There is no right or wrong answer for the icebreakers, for sure. The second one is where we get into the specifics of knowing the candidate in a detail. And what forms the basis for knowing the candidate is the form that they have filled, the way they have answered that particular question, their interest, hobbies, accomplishments, some of the tricky ones around what is your mistake and what have you learned from it, and so on and so forth. That becomes the second part. The third part actually relates to something around how can you convince me that you are the best candidate for this particular position, and this position is going to be most suited for you to help you achieve not just the dreams for yourself, but also the institute's expectations from you, right? There are a lot of aspects to that, which includes moral aspects, honesty, discipline, patience, etc., etc. There is a bit of a clarity of your future views, what your expectations are, what you have done to show that you can make good of an opportunity like that. And the last one, which is an almost discounted one, is an opportunity to the candidate to ask the questions. The idea is very simple, that you have spent a lot of time thinking about this particular institute and you are here because of a reason. And if it hasn't triggered any question in your mind that you want to find an answer, it will show a bit of a shallowness in terms of thinking about that. Quite a few people pass this particular opportunity off, but I will give you a few examples where people actually change the view of the interviewer by just asking the right question at that point in time. So Each of them is a very, very powerful and a very nice way for you to make an impression, for you to convince the interviewer that there is something that you have which is of value to the institute, and what you are aiming for is not just a seat in here, but a life that it is going to give you in the future. So that would be a brief of the science or the structure behind an interview process.